tomorrow on Tuesday, the 18th of March, Trump and Putin are reportedly expected to speak on the phone. So I was wanted to ask you first, what is realistic to expect from this?
Well, there's obviously a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes that we have not been privy to. So the question really is what, beyond the discussion of a 30-day ceasefire, uh, has substantively been discussed with the Ukrainians, perhaps even agreed, though according to the Ukrainian responses, nothing. Now, what I mean by that is there isn't going to be a ceasefire just standing alone. Uh, why would there be? The Russians will not accept that. They have the military momentum, and they've not heard a word officially from the Ukrainian side about any of the fundamental causes of the war. And that's what the Russians say, but it's true. Also, it's not just a Russian position. This war has to be ended on political grounds, the most fundamental of which include three items: Ukrainian neutrality versus the ongoing demand by Ukraine and by many of Ukraine's partners in Europe for NATO membership. The second is a settlement on territorial issues. And the third is a settlement on some kind of security arrangements in the context of a peace agreement. Now, we haven't heard publicly any movement by the Ukrainian government on any of those three items. Uh, According to the Ukrainian government, from what I've heard, and I may have missed something, but the demand for NATO membership continues essentially, or continues to this day. The demand for a full recovery of all territories to the 1991 borders continues to be the official position. And regarding security, basically NATO membership or NATO troops continue to be, including the participation of the United States, continue to be the position regarding security. Now, those are not the basis for peace because Russia has security interests that are fundamental that led to this war. Russia has the momentum on the battlefield. So calling for a 30-day ceasefire by itself means nothing. Now, presumably, when the United States representatives and the Ukrainian representatives met in Jeddah, they didn't spend 8.5 hours behind closed doors discussing a very short statement. They discussed these basic conditions. One might suspect that there was some movement on these. Uh, the United States has more or less uh, made a very major movement on these, saying that yes, NATO will not enlarge. There will have to be territorial concessions. There will have to be security arrangements that do not include, for example, the United States. Ukraine, to my knowledge, to the time that we speak, has not made any public movement on these, and we don't know if there was private movement. Now, after that 8.5 hour meeting in Jeddah, the U.S. Envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with President Putin. Uh, it was one could say, a congenial meeting in a way. The meeting itself was uh, mutually respectful and diplomatic. The statements that came out of it were the same. Russia saying, yes, we could agree with a ceasefire if the fundamental causes of this war are recognized. There was a further exchange regarding Ukrainian troops surrounded in the Kursk region. In the 2 days that followed, there were upbeat statements by President Trump on his social media. Presumably, something's happening behind the scenes, but we don't know. And the statements coming from European leaders are as bellicose as ever. So we have probably two levels of uh, diplomacy taking place, something behind closed doors, something in public. If the only thing we have is the United States uh, essentially uh, saying that NATO will not enlarge, that there need to be territorial concessions, and that a security arrangement will not involve the United States, but that there is no agreement on those fundamental issues, either by Ukraine or by uh, major European powers, then I think what we will have is the United States just extricating itself from this conflict, and events will follow on in Ukraine, probably Ukraine's major losses on the battlefield. But if there is behind closed doors more agreement, which I think is quite plausible, then maybe we're heading towards a real agreement.